Hey there. I want to go into a little bit of history. This is going to kind of be real brief. I'm not going to go into super depth detail. You can follow up, right, with what I'm saying and come to your own conclusions. Verify me that way. The other day was book day, right? I think that was yesterday. And I'd showed this book by Blavatsky. And I had said she was the mother of the Theosophical Society. And it gave me an idea to maybe go into that a little bit, the Theosophical Society. And I've also mentioned how I'm getting my library back. And when I had my library, I had taken a picture of it. I had spread it out on the table. I was excited to share because I've been on this journey, and I've been looking for others that have went through similar things that I went through. So I've been sharing what I've learned and just eagerly trying to meet others that have been on a similar path. And so I shared my library. Covers the whole table. It did. And when I get it back, it will. It'll be bigger than the table. And I noticed when I had shared it, the group that I was sharing it with, a lot of them were like, man, where did you get those books? And what's funny is I thought that almost anybody would have known of these books that was in that group. To my mind, I was thinking that like maybe I was the one catching up. And so I shared, of course, I was eager to share. I was like, yeah, I got it from here or there. I've got PDF copies. I've got all kinds. I'll send them to you. And then I realized that maybe going into a history lesson might do some good. A lot of these occult schools usually stick with lodge material, Masonic material. For most people start out, Blue Lodge. They work their way up in the degrees, all the way up to 33, right? I'm sure I'll get some Masons that'll come on here and, do their thing. But that's okay. After 33, there is more. They don't necessarily name them. A lot of things become orally taught. Anyway. The books that I'm sharing and that I got into and that I would notice my family reading and that I actually shared within the group were things that, like I said, I would see my family getting into. Mainly really my grandparents. They were the higher members of those groups in the leadership. My father's pretty high too, but he was under him. He was his study. And then I realized that the books that I was seeing, like these ones, the Mahatmas, the Ascended Masters, that's stuff that the normal Mason doesn't get into. Why wouldn't they teach them that? No, when it comes to the occult school, there was two ideas of thought. A lot of it, one was like more of like Eastern mysticism, Eastern philosophy. And then the other side, which the West adopted, was more of like a esoteric Christianity. And in my opinion, after doing research on both, one is more about the light and aligning with God, and the other one's more about power, control, science. That's the way the West went. And there was a split. Okay? This lady, Blavatsky, and the people that were aligned with the things she was teaching studied more stuff from these guys. The Ascended Masters, the Mahatmas, Buddha. And they went out to the East. And we really didn't tap into it here on the West. Unless you got to the higher degrees. From what I've researched, it was the 33rd degree and up before they started teaching and inviting those families into the Summit Lighthouse and those kind of type places. Keepers of the Flame. No, the folks that, the group that my folks were into, and like I said, and if you know anything about Masonry, it's, you got your Blue Lodge, your Shriners, your York Rite, your Scottish Rite, and you got all these weird names and all these little orders that are within them, and, just all these little puzzle pieces that make the picture a little convoluted. It's all really the same. My folks, they were high up into the Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. An order that's an invitation only. You can't just apply for it. They scope you out from within the group. And I don't mean that in some braggadocious way. Oh, my folks were 33rd degree Masons high up, and there's because it really wasn't great for me. Maybe for like some of the other members of my family who benefited off of the, licking the boots and doing what you were told. But for me and my cousin, the one that was like me, wasn't fun being in those groups. There's a weird thing that they do. Frat boys and sorority girls kind of privy to this kind of thing. With the initiations into the group where they haze you. You hear stories about how they paddle each other and do all kind of, really weird, embarrassing, degrading things that's supposed to build some kind of bond of brotherhood, sisterhood. But from my experience, all it does is just yoke a bunch of people together in some embarrassing act that no one wants to speak about. You have one person that's a victim. You have everyone else who played their role, played their part, even if they didn't want to. They were told to. But one thing that everyone agrees on is they gotta keep quiet. Such a weird thing. But yeah, that's a little brief history. If you want to look into more of it, look into the history of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, how it was formed, who formed it, and what things they were involved in. It'll give you a little bit of insight. There's never too much progress to be made that you can't look back and learn. For like Solomon said, nothing new is under the sun. All right, guys. Bye-bye now.